Hello boys and girls, are you ready for the next chapter in Oliver and the Seawigs? Chapter 3, let's see what happens. Remember at the end of chapter 2 yesterday, they were on the rambling island and all of a sudden it came out of the water. Here it is, look, you can just make out his head and his eyes. Can you see they're all on top of him? Let's see what happens. Oliver was startled. And Oliver was not a boy who startled easily. "It's got a face," he said. "Of course it's got a face," said Iris. Oliver waved at the rambling island. He said. "Hello," Iris told it. "He wants to know where you're going." The rambling island watched them thoughtfully. He wasn't used to being talked to. It was years and years since he had been spoken, and he hadn't even realised there was anybody on its head until these two upside down faces appeared. "Please," said Oliver, "I have to find those other islands. My mum and dad were on one. That's why I need to know where you're all going." The rambling island opened its cave of a mouth. It cleared its throat with a crumbly rumble, like masses of rock steering and shifting deep in the earth. "They are all going to the hollowed shallows," it said, "for the night of the Seawigs." Oliver was starting to feel dizzy, hanging upside down like that. He sat upright. "What's a Seawig?" he asked. "Haven't you heard?" said Iris. "Every 7 years the rambling islands all gather together at the hollowed shallows to show off their treasures. They love to collect things. You see, all the bits of flock stamp and the sea washes up their heads. They're very proud of their collections. On the night of the Seawigs, each of them wears a wig made of all the treasures it had gathered on its travels. The one with the finest wig is declared the winner. It's a great honour. Everyone makes a huge fuss of them. They become chief island for the next 7 years, and they get to order the other islands about, if they want to, and choose all the best bits of wigs for themselves." "I bet Thrumpcap wins this time," said the island, "or Dimpsey. They always have the best Seawigs, of course. They have crinkly, complicated sea coastlines. All sorts of interesting things get stuck on them. Most of what washes up on my shore washes away straight off again. Look at me. All I have to show for my wanderings is a few bits of old rope and a stupid bird's nest." Oliver tried to think of something encouraging he could say that would cheer up the poor island. But it was true. Its wig was a mess. Its summit was mostly bold rock, with those grassy hair bits sprouting out everywhere, and rather a lot of albatross poo. Now that Oliver came to look critically at it. "Who are you talking to?" said Mr. Culpepper, stalking importantly down the beach. "And whose nest are you calling stupid?" "I don't even know whether I can be bothered making the journey," the island went on, in its deep, mournful voice. "I can't imagine the wonderful Seawigs, which will be on display at the hollowed shallows, and there they'll be, with all bits of rope and my bird's nest. The others will laugh at me. Perhaps I'll just give it a miss this time." "No," said Oliver. He hung over the beach edge again. "You must go, or at least tell me how to get there, so I can find Mum and Dad." "Oh, it's not a place you could get to," said Iris airily. "Not on your own." She hung upside down beside him, with her wet hair dangling. "The hallowed shallows aren't that sort of place at all. They are the place where all the old things of the sea went to live once people in the world stopped believing in them. Actually, they are where I live too, only I came out to find that optician, and I couldn't, and now I can't find my way home either." She blinked short-sightedly. Oliver thought he saw tears beginning to gather in her eyes. He fetched the oily length of nylon rope he'd noticed on the tide line yesterday. He tied one end firmly round a rock, then lowered himself down in front of the island's face. "Did you hear that?" he said. "We both need to go to hallowed shallows. Please say you'll take us there." "Oh, I don't know," said the island glumly. Oliver frowned, swaying in front of those huge eyes like a hypnotist's watch. Look, do you have a name? He asked. Me, said the island dolefully. A name? No, some of the bigger rambling islands have been mistaken for real islands by sailors and explorers who gave them the most splendid names, but no one ever noticed me. Not at all, said Iris. Well, someone put a sign upon me once when I went to sleep for a few years near the mouth of a river. But it fell off. Anyway, I can't go around calling myself Danger, Submerged Rocks, can I? Well, you need a name, said Oliver, looking up at those craggy features. The clinging barnacles and clumps of weed. I'm going to call you, Cliff. Cliff? The island said, trying it out. He sounded pleased. Cliff. Honey? No, Mummy's reading a story. Hold on a minute, children. Come here. Come here. Look, reading this to the children. Now listen, Cliff, said Oliver. How long is it till Seaweeds contest? We gather at the shallows tomorrow night, said Cliff. Iris nodded. That's right. All my mermaid friends are going. They're going to perch on rocks and sing. It's completely lame. Well then, Cliff, said Oliver. You've got all of today and tomorrow to gather some really brilliant bits to decorate your Seawig. We'll help. Will you? Sniffed the poor island, looking hopefully at them. We will. We will? Asked Iris. Of course we will, said Oliver. Let's think. What would be best things you could possibly have on your wig? They've really got me and Iris and the inflatable dinghy. He's got an albatross too, said Iris. It can stand on the top and spread its wings or something. Excuse me, said Mr. Culpepper, coming to peer over the edge beside her. I am a Domiomedeus excellentus, I am, and I'm a particularly fine specimen too. I am not some funfair attraction. Spread its wings indeed, he sniffed loudly. Seems to me that this island has gone to the dogs. It used to be such a nice, quiet place. Now I can hardly move for boys and mermaids. I don't like the sound of these Seawigs affairs at all. It sounds like a lot of noise and bother to me. Don't listen to him, Oliver told the island. Just think, what are the most wonderful things that an island could wear? Well, there's always shipwrecks, said Cliff. Shipwrecks are very stylish. The dinghy is sort of a wreck, Oliver pointed out. Yeah, it's just stranded, said Cliff sadly. It's not the same thing at all. He's right, said Iris dreamily, draping her tail in a rock pool. What he needs is a really spectacular wreck. What about the water mole? Oliver frowned. I've heard of that. It was the world's first submarine. The King of Spain built it to ferry treasure from his gold mines without English pirates noticing. But it didn't work too well. It sank and nobody knows where. Iris coughed and pointed modestly to herself. You mean you know where we could find it? Oliver asked. I ran into it a while swimming around, Iris said, rubbing thoughtfully at her fading bruise upon her elbow. It's on Undersea Mountain, not far from here. Oh, a submarine, said Cliff, sounding hopeful for the first time. I don't think any of the other islands have ever had a submarine. Well, let's go and find the water mole then, said Oliver. And then hurry to the hallowed shallows and see what those other islands think of it. I'll bet they'll declare you the winner in an instant. Cliff nodded happily, almost tumbling his two passengers off into the sea. He'd never really thought of himself as a winner of anything before, but Oliver spoke with such certainty that he could almost hear the voices of his fellow rambling islands as they cheered his wonderful wig. He sank back down into the waves until the top of his stony head became an island again. And with Iris shouting directions, he set off, surging through the water with a steady, confident motion. Oliver lay on the edge of the beach and looked down through the water. He could dimly see Cliff's huge rocky limbs moving far beneath in the depths. How strange to think there were such things as rambling islands in the world, and he had never even heard of them. And there we leave it there, ready for chapter 4. Me and Penny will join you again next time. Bye for now.